Mr. Miliband met journalists from Brazil, Russia, India and China at the Foreign Office ahead of the London summit next month. He discussed with them the British government's plans for the event and answered their questions on a range of related issues.
I am Daniela Milanese from Agência Estado in Brazil, and my question, of course, is about Brazil. I'd like to know, Mr. Gordon Brown is going to visit Brazil in the end of the month. I'd like to know the expectations of the government about President Lula's commitment to the G-20 meeting.
Well, I think we're at an absolutely key moment for the world economy, rich and poor. We're less than 4 weeks away from the G20 summit, and engagement with countries like Brazil, not just on the telephone but in person, as the Prime Minister is doing, is absolutely vital. I think that the agenda for the G20 summit is about growth and jobs as well as financial stability and regulation. We have to do the business that is left over from the Washington summit in terms of regulation of financial markets, but we have to do more. We have to make sure that we rebalance the global economy to deliver for poorer countries, including through increased trade, including through protecting development budgets, and also through ensuring that we build a sustainable recovery, a low-carbon recovery. And I think that the Prime Minister's discussions with all the leaders that he's invited are going to be an important part of that process.
How can a country like Brazil contribute to this discussion about new regulation in the financial system?
Well, I think that Brazil and countries like Brazil can, first of all, demonstrate that the decisions that are taken in the industrialized countries have a global effect, and that those effects need to be taken into account as regulatory decisions are taken. Second, Brazil and countries like Brazil can make the links between financial regulation and economic impact, and make sure that the real economy is not forgotten in the discussion about financial sector regulation. Thirdly, I think countries like Brazil can make sure that the billions of people in the world who are dependent on decisions at the G20 summit are properly represented. And in that sense, the participation of countries like Brazil is an important symbol of a commitment to what I would call an inclusive global settlement on the economic front.
Alexander Smotrov from Russian news agency RIA Novosti. Foreign Secretary, Russian president has made it clear that Russia doesn't want the London summit to be another talking shop, and they want real conclusions and documents coming out from this summit. So how likely these concrete steps can be made after the London summit and documents signed?
The British government is very pleased with the comments of President Medvedev and his commitment to real outcomes, not just to more talking. Around the world, I think everyone now recognizes that no one is insulated from this economic crisis. It's not a Western crisis, it's a global crisis with economic effects that are profound. And I think the commitment of the Russian government to real action and to contribute to real action is very welcome. The first part of that must be the outstanding issues of financial regulation that were left over from the Washington summit. 47 issues were raised at the Washington summit where there needed to be practical reform. But I think since the Washington summit, the Prime Minister has led a process to show that there are links from the financial economy to the real economy. And that's why the summit is not just about stability, it's also about growth and it's about jobs. Because in all of our countries, it's growth and jobs are the ultimate test of economic policy. And so I think on macroeconomic coordination, on trade openness, on reform of financial institutions, on the promotion of development, sustainable development, I think there are practical things that we can do, and that's certainly the agenda that we're trying to develop for the summit.
The London summit will take place against the backdrop of exceptionally challenging global economic circumstances. This was the second event Mr. Miliband has held with foreign journalists to discuss the challenges ahead for the G20 meeting.